How are we, gents?
Very well. How you doing?
Yeah,
Good evening, chaps.
Andy's around and Joe, full house.
Yeah, all here.
Yeah. What's the word?
Well, we've been for a drive, haven't we?
Yes, we did. And how good was it to actually climb behind the wheel of a car, have a proper drive, but also, most importantly, do it with your mates?
Yeah, it was good. Really good.
Yeah, I caught up in the end.
Oh yeah, someone got out of bed eventually.
Yeah.
What happened
You did well to find us, I think.
Yeah, I did. Well, I was searching the south coast, but yeah, there they came, the 5 cars the other way. It was quite a sight, I must say.
Excellent. What was it? Just got out of bed late, or was it didn't set the alarm?
Various.
Say no more.
Sounds a little bit under the thumb to me.
Yeah.
No, it was good, wasn't it? I don't know if you guys saw on Instagram as well. Like there were a load of like Social 6 meetups, weren't there, of like Porsche cars and whatnot going on. So great to see. Absolutely amazing the fact that we're allowed to actually do that again.
Absolutely. It was nice to stretch the legs on the old little 912 as well with the new boots on it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, how does it feel? Does it feel any different?
Yeah, definitely different. It's just it's not in a bad way either. No, I think it's good. I think it's obviously there's that bit much more width on the road, so I don't think it's going anywhere. But it's it was pedalling along and holding its own, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
It looked
chasing
great.
a nest.
Well, I was going to say it looked great, didn't it? But also, Joe, you're pretty adept at peddling that thing, you know. Bearing in mind it was the only 4-banger there amongst a gaggle of 6-pot cars, and you were out in front at one stage, leading the field.
Well, you don't have a choice, do you? You got to just keep the thing rolling. That's as long as you don't stop, it's all right.
You're probably better out the front, aren't you? Because you can keep that momentum going. If you're behind people, you get a little bit sort of.
Well, I mean, you say that on the way back. I was following Paul's little ST, and that was I was having to pedal pretty hard to follow that down the lanes and stuff.
Yeah,
no, it's good.
I forgot to mention actually on the way back, I was following you, Joe. I'm driving along, and then I just heard like what I thought was a thud, and I thought, "Fucking hell, what was that?" I swear something had like hit my door or something. I was like genuinely contemplating pulling over and just having a quick look around the car. Right. Driving ahead, just thinking, well, I seem to be fine. And then it happened again, and I realised it was the popping and banging of your exhaust in front. But it was so loud, I thought it was something that happened to my own car, like, you know. Oh, mate, yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah, it's got a little cheeky backfire now and again, and it's those pipes just, I don't know, whatever they do, it obviously a bit of, they're a little bit heavily fueled as well on the carbs, and I think it just lets you know it's there occasionally.
Nice.
Wicked. Well, look, we've got a guest on again today, haven't we? A good interviewee that's a little bit kind of different to other people we've had on so far. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I think, certainly, no lesser credentials than anyone we've had so far. Just a slightly different take on the car world, isn't it? So tonight we are talking to Tom from TGE, aren't we?
We are indeed. So it's a little bit different, I would say, than what we've kind of had on previous interviews. But I think it's a really good thing. It's kind of, as you said off air, Joe, it's just a different take on our community, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
It's interesting how many Porsches he's acquired lately. Be interested to hear what he says about that.
Yes, definitely. He's definitely treading down a certain path there. So let's get him on and find out the reasons behind his purchases, including the Carrera GT, of course.
Absolutely.
Well, and not to mention a brand spanking new 992 turbo that's just released, isn't it?
Yes, let's do it. Let's get him on.
Cool.
We've just seen like absolute TGE breaking news. You've bought a Turbo S 992.
Yeah, I ordered one anyway. So bought is probably a strong term, but in YouTube terms, that's the term we go for. It gets more clicks.
Excellent. I admire your honesty on that. Well, yeah, come on then. What's the story? How did that come about?
I don't know. I just got bored. I think it'll be good. I just started playing around the configurator and I just thought, yeah, why not?
You didn't hit the buy it now button?
No, there wasn't one. Well, you can't really buy one. I tried with some dealers, and they're like, "Ooh, early next year." This kind of usual nonsense. Even though apparently we're in a recession, you can't go and buy a £200 car. They can't. Yeah. They don't want to give you a business card. They don't even want to sell them. They're not bothered. So, yeah. I don't think we're in tough economic times yet. They're still just as complacent as ever. So.
This is it, because like where they obviously shut production for what was it, best part of 8 weeks at the factory, they have got a backlog, so like there is a slight thing, but then by the same thing, most people are keeping their hands in their pockets at the moment, aren't they? So I mean, if you've got a guy going into a dealer and saying, I'd quite like your 155 grand supercar, please, it's kind of weird that they would say, well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly kind of jumping at the bit to kind of champing the bit to get it, but whatever. It's absolutely fine. I managed to source a slot through a friend, so as long as that rings true, then I should have delivery September-ish, maybe.
Yeah. Oh wow. So it'd be quite literally one of the first off the boat then.
Yeah, I hope so. I've been offered a couple of cars that have had their spec locked, but these are kind of like crayon cars with tinted windows, black wheels, yellow stitching, just kind of like not the kind of vibe that I really want. I don't want to look like I sell cocaine for a living. So,
what have you gone for then? What's the spec list? Give us the rundown.
Well, I haven't locked it yet, so I can actually still go for whatever. It's probably going to be midnight blue metallic with silver wheels and kind of silver window trim, just a bit like a classy spec, black calipers, a bit understated, but just sort of classy. Or it's going to be GT silver with blue interior, silver wheels. Again, kind of dad spec, but
very grown-up specs there.
Yeah, they are quite grown-up specs, but I've got some shouty, horrible stuff in my garage, so I thought,
true.
Just keep it understated and try and have a car that I can drive around in that people don't hate you. So it'll be quite nice. Yeah, so fingers crossed that all comes true.
Tom, I think it's kind of prudent for us and people listening just to kind of run through what's in the garage currently. Particularly from a Porsche perspective, and also what you've had before. I then want to follow that up by asking what it is about Porsche that you like, again, in comparison to the other stuff you've got.
Right, I'm just going to consult my Instagram bio for the list, because I always miss one every time I try and do it off the top of my head. So in the garage at the moment, we'll start with boring stuff. Well, less expensive stuff first. We have got in there. I need to remove one actually. I've got two. I've got a Defender. I've got a 996 Carrera 4S. I've got a 1966 912. I've got a 2020 Mercedes AMG GT Roadster. I've got a 2020 Range Rover Vogue e-hybrid thingy. I've got a 2013 V8 M3 cab E93. I've got a Ferrari 458 Spider. I've got Ferrari F12. I've got a Ferrari 488 Pista. And I've got a Carrera GT. And an Aston Martin Vantage AMR. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's one or two more than us. To be quite honest, yeah.
Stupid when you read it out. What am I doing?
So what's the name of your dealership?
Yeah, I wish.
So come on then, Tom. Like, why so many Porsches in there? That's clearly like the dominant brand for where your garage is at the moment.
Do you know what? I just think this is the worst response you're ever going to get. I just think they're good. Like it doesn't matter what year, what car. They just don't make a rubbish car. They don't, and they haven't really made a bad car. There's just something timeless about them. It doesn't matter what age they are. They always just like they hold their own. You never see someone with an older Porsche and think, he's got an old Porsche. Why has he not got the new one? You just think that's good. And I think that's something that only Porsche really have. Everything they seem to make, I think it's just cool. I know that's really terrible waffle, but I just really like them.
We'll take that.
Yeah, we'll have that.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the end of the day, you're putting your money where your mouth is, aren't you? So that's kind of like the greatest explanation. But there's good breadth of cars in there. I think Joe is going to be particularly interested in the 912.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, fellow 912 owner. Mine's a year old. Mine's a year older than yours, so 67. Which sort of done a bit of fettling with. But I think because when you got yours, was it meant to be a good car, or did you buy an average car knowing it's going to be a bit of a job to get it together?
The only standard I expected that car to meet was that it was green. Everything else was a bonus. He didn't sell it to me as a wreck.
Okay.
And had he been completely open about the state of it, I probably would have haggled him more. I still would have bought it, and I still would have attempted to drive it home. But actually, no, I wouldn't have done. It was genuinely but I would have haggled him a bit more. But instead, I just turned up and said, "Yeah, it's green as I expected," and that was my inspection done. And then I just got in and drove home.
So how much work did it need? What have you had done? What haven't you had done?
Everything that you can't see has been done effectively. It's structurally. So the whole new floors, like everything, absolutely everything, underneath the car, like the whole new floors. Front end has pretty much had to be rebuilt. Like both front quarters were mainly just filler and kind of desperation, holding it all together. And then the rear quarters again were just a kind of a tale of cheap bodges over the years, all stuck together and rusting to hell. So that's all been redone as well. So extensive structural stuff. But I didn't buy the car wanting something kind of glitzy and looking new. I was happy to buy a scruffy turd, but as long as it was structurally okay, I wasn't that bothered. And I always knew that I can just get the work done. So
it's more usable, I think, isn't it? You're not so worried about it if it's absolutely pristine, then it becomes more of a pain to live with. So.
I've got enough things in the garage that I park them up, and I'm worried about someone keying it or opening a door into it or taking the corner off it when they're pulling out of a parking space. With that, don't get me wrong, I'd be absolutely fuming. But it's nice just to have something that, I notice a new mark on the paint one day. I'm not going to be like, oh no, that's it, it's screwed. $2,000 in a body shop, it's just going to get left. And all the marks and kind of little bubbles in the paint and stuff, it's just part of its history, really. So when I like watches as well, I'm a big watch collector, and when I buy a vintage watch, I want everything original, even if that means some of the kind of luminescent materials falling out of the hands, or the scratches on the case, or the dial's a bit cracked. I like all that. It's all kind of character. So I've applied that logic to cars, which is probably not the way to do things, but...
Yeah, so some logic in there, I think. And what was the? I probably know the answer to this question better than anyone. But how come you went 912 and not 911? That's what everyone always asks me.
It was cheap as chips in comparison. To be honest with you, I thought to myself, I want to dabble in classic Porsche ownership. I think the 912 is a car that no one really talks about mainstream. No one really gets it, other than kind of boring people like us. And I thought, you know what? It's a cheap, and I say cheap, obviously it's a lot of money still, and I'm not saying it's absolutely nothing, but comparatively a relatively easy entry point. So yeah, I kind of got in at the and I think it's interesting as well, it's kind of the gap between, it's the bridge between the 356 and the 911, and without the 912 doing as well as it did sales figures wise, I don't know whether we would have Porsches as we have the modern ones today. So I think it's quite an important car to Porsche's history, and it's cool just to have a bit of it. And also I just feel like a lot of them got neglected. They went down to really cheap cars, so not many of them got rescued. But I feel like most 911s have been rescued or are being rescued. But no one really bothered with the 912s a lot of the time, hence all the crap repairs.
I actually think a 912 is a really ballsy decision to go and buy one of those, because if you want a classic kind of 911 experience or a classic Porsche experience, you can go and buy a fairly solid 3.2 Carrera. Yeah, it might need a little bit of work, but it just everything tends to work. It's a good bulletproof engine, really reliable. A 912, like you say, where the values of them over time, they dip so low. I know one specialist in the US that calls them Californian students' cars from 15 years ago, because that's where they were at. You've got 50 years, half a century of that being on the road. To kind of just go out and buy one is ballsy. To go out and buy one just off the kind of knowing what colour it is and not a lot else, then fair play. Do you know what I mean? That's, yeah.
I got in it. I drove the length of the M4 in it in the pissing rain.
Did you get wet feet?
I didn't, and I don't know how, because the bolts that held the pedal box were visible through the bottom of the car. So it was having a bit of a Flintstone moment, that car. And when I told Max at 912 Revival that I'd driven at the length of the M4 just in the fast lane at 80, the colour drained from his face. He couldn't believe anyone had been that stupid. No seatbelt, whatever. Just sat in there, happy as Larry, ignorant as hell. Just off I went. Yeah.
But that's again the point, isn't it? I've got a friend who had an Irish Green 912, and it was imported from the States, and it was advertised as a dry state car, so therefore, insinuating no rust. But, they kind of chiseled away at the paintwork, and the seals were made out of banana boxes. Do you know what I mean? And like, regardless of like what engine's in the back, I mean, if you want to restore a car from 1967, 68, it's the same process as a 911 that you have to go through. So it's it's a big project.
I was lured in with matching numbers and original Irish green paint. That was what I was lured in with. I thought if it's got those things, then it's going to be a nice base that I can kind of dip my toe into classic waters with. I'm really happy with it now, though. I mean, it's still an absolute turd, but at least I know it's not going to fold when I go around the corner.
I have to say, and I know, Andy, you've got a question, but I think it's absolutely mad that we're talking to a guy with a Carrera GT in the garage, and for the last 5 minutes we've been rabbiting on about this old four-banger. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Oh, dear.
It definitely seems to be a change from your previous car sort of experience. Lots of new stuff, but you're sort of going older style with the 912 and the 996 and even the Carrera GT. It's more old analog stuff, isn't it?
I've become a little bit different franchise.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I think what I want is a garage with a lot of like kind of breadth. I want some stuff that's latest and greatest. Hence Turbo S. I think that is just kind of the jewel in the crown for Porsche at the moment, just showing what they can do, how amazing they can make something, and they can also make it that you can literally drive to the shops in it every single day. That's kind of like I want every kind of end of the spectrum covered in the garage. I wouldn't be happy with just classic old stuff, and I wouldn't be happy with just modern stuff. So I kind of want all boxes ticked, really, whilst I can still afford to do so.
Have you managed to drive a 992 Turbo?
I haven't. No, a press car seems to be given out to the world, his dog's mum, and his nan. But I'm yet to see one, so I thought, sod it, I'll just order one instead of scrounging a demo. I'm just going to go and buy one. You can't.
Lee, were you on that list of scroungers the other day? Didn't you have a bit of time in one?
I was indeed chief scrounger. Yeah.
Perfect. Good work. Let me know how you do it. What did you sell? Do you send like freshly baked biscuits into HQ to get one?
Well, I'm a bad cook, so definitely not that. But I don't know. To be honest, if you're able to go out and just buy one and do your own review of it, then good luck to you, Tom. That's
not going to be a good review. That usually does the trick. How did you find it? Is it good or is it rubbish?
I mean, we had this chat the other day, us boys. It's a phenomenal car, the Turbo. I'd say it's like the indomitable 911. It does absolutely everything. I do question whether I question the step up in price from a C4S, especially now they're turbocharged, because that car on its own is so capable. It's not kind of doing it's not doing the Turbo S a disservice. It's saying that the C4S is bloody good, And yes, it's a wider car and it's a different engine and the power's phenomenal, blah, blah, blah. But the C4S has like 8/10 of that car in every department and it's half the price or whatever, So I'd take the C4S and keep the 50 grand for a 912 restoration, I'd say.
Yeah, but spoiler.
And I like that, and I like how more sophisticated it is on the 992 as well.
I know what you mean. I totally get it, and I agree, to be honest with you. But for willy waving purposes, I like the Turbo S.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, like fair play.
So very quickly, this sounds really unprofessional, and it is. I think at some point during this podcast, my dinner's going to get delivered, so I'll have to take like a 2-minute break just to go and grab it and then bring it out. We can carry on, and I'm not going to eat it throughout. But
no, that's cool. That's cool.
I'm really sorry. This is what you get for having an idiot on the podcast, I guess. I knew what you were getting. I'll let you know anyway. Sorry, carry on. I interrupted with nonsense.
I tell you what I was going to ask you about, because I think it's obviously everyone wants to know, and I think there's a lot of hush stigma around it, and that's the sort of going about funding cars, because obviously you're quite open about it. I mean, I'm totally in your camp of if you can stack it up and you know where you're at, then why wouldn't you? And other people are like, no, if you don't own it, it's not yours type attitude, which is ridiculous. But what's I was thinking more so with the recent, when you go for like an epic big purchase, something like Carrera GT, Would you mind giving us the rundown? Yeah, I mean, what do the numbers look like at that end of the scale? Because
everyone always wants to know. No one knows how to kind of phrase it. I make no secret of it on my channel. I fund them all. And yeah, there is a crowd that will always have a problem with car finance. They seem to kind of frequent Piston Heads forum and get lots of angry comments back and forth on it. But I have no issue with it. You know, if with safe lending guidelines and whatnot, that you're not going to get lent the money if you can't afford it on the whole. So I don't really have any issue with it. At the point at which they stop lending to me, then I'll stop. I'll realise I can't afford it. So all good. But on the Carrera GT, it's I think it was less than 100 down. Okay. And it's about nudging $5,000 a month, I think. I mean, how I don't know. I'm not in a position that I can't not know, but I somehow don't know.
And what was the ticket on that car in the end? What did you get away with nicking it for?
It was off market, and I kind of got sworn to secrecy on it, but it didn't start with a 6. Put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good buy then.
Yeah, it was. So I got a good price on it, and I didn't pay dealer money for it.
Nice.
So I kind of got it kind of before it went onto a forecourt, and got a sort of 70 grand bump on the price. So no, I did well, and I researched the car. I spoke to a lot of people in the market, because those are the sorts of cars everyone knows them, particularly a 2-owner UK car like that one. It's known, like everyone knows each car pretty much. They know where it's been. It's been on some concourses, all kind of stuff, and all the documentation. You know as well as I do, you have to kind of really buy the seller as well. And it came through a very, very good friend of mine who's known it from new. So for me, it was the only car I could get. A lot of the cars I was looking at, there's just a leap into the unknown. Some of them have disappeared for years. And you know as well as I do, a lot of them have been kind of shunted, stuck back together. And because of the amount of carbon in their construction, you can't just shunt it and kind of spray over it and jobs are good. And they're really kind of cars you don't want having any knocks. But this one's got original paint, no shunts. And yeah, it's a good car. And a few kind of guys in the high-end car, I won't name anyone, but they were kind of bidding on it as well. So that really kind of gave me some confidence that, you know, this was a good car. I've waffled there. Is waffle a good thing on these things? I've not done a podcast before.
Waffling's great. Carry on.
Phenomenal. Yeah, it makes you alive. And off I go.
What's the are you at all nervous about the running costs of a Carrera GT? Because I've heard some scary stories.
Don't share them with me then. Everyone's like, do you know what? This first thing is, how much is that a month? And then the second thing is, a clutch is going to cost you 80 grand. But I think realistically these days there are so many specialists that can work on those cars. Yes, the parts aren't cheap. But it's no longer the case. You know, when they first came out, you had to take it to Reading, and Reading would just kind of loosen your belt, and off they went. I think these days you can get it. You can get the big jobs done elsewhere. There are people that can get those engines out. They know every single inch of those cars. So I'm not too worried. And being a kind of an insta prat, a YouTube kind of person, I can work with workshops and garages and whatever to kind of strike a deal. I do tend to get kind of looked on favorably cost wise with work that I get done on my cars. So talking of scrounging earlier, but no, it's not something I would be as nervous with now than if I was kind of Joe Blogs with one of these. I know that's a horrible answer, but just being honest, I'll be looked after better, I think, cost wise on a lot of work. Which is nice.
Has it been well looked after and sort of, you know, up to now in its life? I mean, most of them have, obviously, but you know, is it now?
Yeah, it's had a lot of Porsche history and it's had some specialist history as well. But the specialist history is someone that I know really well. He's had the engine out himself. He knows everything about it, and he's kind of personally vouched. He just said, you know, it's a good car. And from someone I know and trust, that was enough. I didn't even really look at the car before I bought it. It wasn't a 912 scenario in that, you know, if it was the right color, then fine. But I went on trust on that, and everything I've heard since buying it sort of months and months ago, everyone I've spoken to about the car says, yeah, you've absolutely smashed it. It's a good one. So thank God for that. Otherwise I'd be upside down and negative equity.
What about the reality of owning a Carrera GT? Is everything you lived up to, or is it, you know, what was the first impression?
I've driven it 3 times. The first time I actually saw it was it coming out of a truck at Goodwood, And then I had a film crew filming my kind of launch video for the car, which I had to maneuver it around and then drive it around an empty Goodwood track. Literally the first time I've even seen one stationary, let alone sat in one or driven one. So that's pretty daunting. But no, it's incredible when you get it right, and you're kind of, it's unlike anything I've ever driven before. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't help but grin and sweat at the same time. I'm not an amazing driver either. I would love to tell you I could do a Top Gear lap record in it, but nowhere near, absolutely nowhere near. I really kind of still baby it when I drive it around. It wasn't a comfortable purchase for me, so it's not something I'm just going to be batting around in the whole time. Bear with me. Can I disappear for like literally a second? Grab my feet.
Yeah, go for it.
Does that work?
No
Or is
problem.
that ridiculous? Or am I thrown off?
Yeah. I can't even remember where we were. Oh no, yes, it is. That Carrera GT and stuff, weren't we? Yeah. Okay.
I tell you what. One last question before we jump off the whole boring funding cars thing. Where do you think, in terms of the market, everyone's saying market's going to shift, and people with funded cars are going to get in trouble. Are you nervous about market shifting with a sort of garage full, or are you not?
I mean, a shift is okay, but like a monumental shift isn't. I'm quite careful in the deposits I put in the cars. I try not to do bare minimum, but I always leave cash spare that if I need to get out at negative equity wise, then I can. I've been really, really lucky, and I've taken some educated guesses over the past few years. If I'd got half of the cars wrong up until now. I mean, I've been in and out of probably 15, 20 odd sort of high-end supercars in the past 2-3 years. If I'd got the majority of those wrong, we wouldn't be sat here now having the conversation. I would have just cut my losses and thought, sod it, cars aren't for me. But I've kind of swum the channel a few times in terms of getting out my cars. I am a little bit worried about it. Obviously, same with anyone that's kind of got aggressive mortgage payments, and they're worried about, buying at the peak of the market and being in negative equity on their house. It's slightly different, obviously, a house and a car. But
you can always liquidate a car quicker, can't you? I think that's the upside, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And a car, unless you buy a brand new McLaren, it's not going to be a life wrecker with a car. You might just get stung. You might have to dig in 20, 30 grand into your savings or whatever and get out of it and just think, well, that was bloody silly of me. I'm not doing that again. But yeah, with 10 odd cars all on finance, I think a couple of them are cash actually. It is pretty aggressive. I think the deposits on them and the way I've structured it is kind of okay. They're all paying for themselves on social media alone. And that's the majority of them, bar two, are actually kind of just sort of tools for the business, really. As bad as that sounds, it's the only way I'd have them and be able to legislate for them.
Yeah. So does your whole collection become sort of tax deductible because it is your business?
There are things you can do, yeah, and certainly, I wouldn't put them through as company cars and whatnot. There are definitely things you can do, and if you've got very clear guidelines, which ones are personal cars, ones that you literally just bat around in. But so there's very real reasons why I don't do 10,000 miles a year in every single one of them. And there's very real reasons I do huge mileage in some of them, because they're ones I use for all my personal stuff, like taking the dog for a walk, whatever. If I'm going out and making content for a brand, I take one of the cars out, I go and churn a video around the block, I put a sponsored intro on it, I monetize the hell out of absolutely everything. That's definitely kind of a business purpose. But yeah, you've got to be quite careful with it. And it's obviously a new area, so you don't want to take the mick too much. But I run it like a business. And I don't see there's any reason why I can't run a business that I also enjoy and that also indulges a passion at the same time, and that also pays my bills.
Well, I think many people would say that's the holy grail, isn't it? And so I'm sure, most people would kind of swap with you on that. So it's
absolutely. Not I left my job a little while ago, my city job. I left it, and I just went into this just full time. And I just thought I'm kind of at a crossroads now. I'm not getting any younger. And I either sit at this desk listening to Karen on Facebook telling me about her weekend again, or I just take a leap into the unknown, quit my job, buy a Carrera GT, and ride out the pandemic sat in my front room. No.
How's that going?
Do you know what? Actually, I've been really, really, really lucky. I've had my best couple of months ever. I've just sold one of my companies, actually. So, yeah, it's gone well somehow. I kind of just... fallen into a barrel. I can't say that phrase actually. I don't know how PG this podcast is, but I've come out of it okay somehow. Just fallen on my feet. But there were a few sleepless nights at the beginning of kind of the lockdown, and everyone's saying, everything's going to be on fire when you wake up, and there'll be dead people in the streets, and all the kind of predictions we had, which thankfully don't seem to have come true.
It was quite interesting, your sort of take on it all. You were very sort of sure. Well, you came across in your videos that you were sure that everything will be all right. We'll come out the other side. Go on. Sorry. From the beginning, you were kind of that way. Which was quite brave, I think, in some ways.
I am a glass half full person. I'm a strong believer in that if you tell the general public we're in a recession, even if we're not, we will be in one soon. Consumer confidence is a massive part of aggregate demand. And if you tell everyone that everything's going to the dogs and that's the end of everything, then they won't go out and buy that fridge that weekend. They won't go on that holiday. They won't book this. They won't book that. They won't buy a second home. They won't spend, and then that cripples everything. So if the media came out and said, the economy's bounced back with flying, people will keep that extra member of staff on. They'll think, I don't need to cut down. It's all those little kind of things that just cripple the economy. They make or break it. I'm a huge believer in that. I know that obviously sounds oversimplified, but
no, I agree with that. I remember, there's a guy on BBC, Preston. I can't think of his first name, but he
Robert.
He almost like talked us into that 2008 thing. It was just like, you're telling everybody it's all going to turn to
I can't stand it. Absolutely can't stand it, because he knows the more economic mess there is, the more of a job he has, the more like thinking parts he gets, the sod.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't suspect he's listening, so thank God.
He is. I just want to move away from the cars then, Tom. So you said you gave up the job in the city. It'd be great to know kind of what your background was pre-YouTube, and then also at what point you dabble with YouTube and then realise, well, hang on a minute, there's something in this.
I went to school, unsurprisingly. Did my A-levels, and then went to university straight away. Didn't do a gap year.
What did you do at uni?
I did law, LLB.
Did you?
Yeah, all sounds very smart, doesn't it? It's
very grown up.
People think, this guy might have a brain. So I did law 3 years, got 2-1, just literally by like 0.5%. I had to round it up, and I got 2-1. Crammed the whole thing, couldn't tell you anything from the 3 years. Had a laugh though, and then I went straight from there to law school. I did the LPC, which is kind of the solicitor route. And during that, I kind of realised that I really, really didn't like law, and I didn't know what on earth I was doing there. So it was an expensive way of finding out that's not what I wanted to do. I'm old enough though that I got in before the fee increases, so it didn't actually really cost me much or anything. Because it was all, at that point, you could pretty much go to uni for free. It was all means tested based on your parents, so it wasn't actually, it didn't really cost anything. Anyway, cut a long story short, I spent 2 years after law school, did a little bit of traveling, faffing around, had my own online business, doing God knows what, and I was working as a lifeguard as well for 2 years, just kind of trying to work out what on earth I wanted to do. And then I got a kind of an entry-level job in a bank. And that was it. It was kind of semi-legal-ish in a bank. And then I did that for 8 years or so, and then realised I was sick of that as well.
Yeah.
But I used it. I used the banking job. A lot of people say, you've got all these businesses. I also set up a few companies in the meantime, but people say, you've got all these businesses. Things are going well. Why are you still in a job? Why are you still there? Why are you still... But I used it to kind of leverage it and get my mortgages on my places. And also it meant that securing funding on cars was way easier than kind of people around me that were just doing kind of YouTube full time and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I was able to kind of indulge my passion for a garage and also build that up while still earning a regular income. And if you have got loads of different companies, obviously, that you can't just drag cash out of them willy nilly to buy cars with. It all worked really well somehow, but there was never a plan.
Well, at what point then did you pick up a camera and start doing stuff with YouTube? And what gave you the impetus to do that in the first place? Was it watching somebody else, or what was your thinking at the time?
I've been friends with Paul Wallace. Do you know Paul from Supercars London?
Yeah.
Really good guy, good egg. Kind of grassroots, kind of an originator in the whole like YouTubing kind of scene, like certainly like the vlogging around cars scene. And I used to be friends with him, and we used to kind of go and mess around. I was doing my fitness business, and he was doing his car YouTube stuff, and we'd overlap as well. I'd kind of support what he was doing, even though his numbers were bigger than mine, and he would support us. And kind of early doors, I used to see him doing these videos with these cars and driving around amazing cars and kind of traveling and all this kind of stuff. And I thought, I want a piece of that pie. That just looks like the best job in the world. So yeah, I just thought, how hard can it be? So I gave it a little go. I think I bought a Cayman GT4. It's my first kind of proper Porsche purchase. And yeah, I just made a vlog of it. And to my amazement, it was honestly the worst thing I've ever seen. I might actually delete it off my channel. It's horrible. I literally did it on my camera phone. It's honestly the worst thing you've ever seen. Like wind in the mic, the whole lot. It's offensive. But it's got kind of like 300,000 views. And I thought, if it's this easy, why am I not going to just start churning videos and just buying more cars? And yeah, I've just kind of reinvested money from the channel back into my garage and just having a laugh with it all, really. So that's been good. But that was kind of the turning point, really. I did take a year out because I couldn't find anyone to edit my videos. I'm a baboon, so it took me about 2 years to work out how to edit a video. But
do you think could somebody still do that today, or do you think that ship has sort of sailed a bit?
Coming from kind of 0 subs, 0 Instagram following, because I already had an Instagram following, so I found it relatively simple to get the first sort of 10, 15,000 subs, which is often the most difficult bit, to kind of get the big ball rolling on YouTube. Coming with 0 Instagram followers and 0 subscribers, it's going to be really, really tough. This day and age, nobody's really impressed by anything anymore. Everyone's desensitized to everything, unless you kind of got kind of ridiculous cars and you're kind of one-upping people. It's really difficult. And there are some amazing content creators that really don't get the light of day that they should. I think it's really, really tough. YouTube's one of the most difficult things. And I'm not saying what I do is difficult. I mean, my videos are nonsense, but I think getting off the ground and getting noticed and cutting through all the idiocy that people like me put out is quite difficult.
It's mad. I know, Tom, you and I have spoken about it briefly at the Fried Eggs meet a couple of months back, because you could kind of really put blood, sweat and tears into a video, try and have some sort of, production value going on and whatever, some sort of structured narrative, and nobody watches it. And then you can just do some, totally like lackadaisical video by comparison. Yeah, like just walk around a car in a supermarket car park and it kind of takes off. And it's really difficult to kind of understand or get a grasp of like the meritocracy on YouTube as a result of that. It's like there's no rule for what's successful and what's not. The videos that should do well sometimes don't, and the videos like vice versa. It's so difficult to predict the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrendous. It rewards nonsense a lot of the time. I think there are channels like Carfection that make really, really nice stuff. And obviously your channel, Lee, is phenomenal. I've actually watched some of your videos, which is rare, because I hate YouTube on the whole. I just can't stand it. Unless I want to buy something and I want to know all about it, I'll watch Carfection, or I'll watch like an actual kind of person that's going to go into all the details. I don't watch YouTube. But no, I watched your Carrera T stuff.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, okay. Did it put you off, or?
No. I'd already ordered at that point, so it was at the point where if you were rude about it, I was going to hate you. So hopefully you weren't. You were relatively complimentary. I think you basically just said it was misunderstood, and then you did that one recently, didn't you?
Yeah. I think I warmed to it second time round more, and I think history will be kind to that car. I really do. I mean, would you ever get one back? I don't suppose you'd feel a need to kind of tread the same path twice.
It was a really good car, and actually, bizarrely, the guy I sold my Carrera T to my friend. He's actually bizarrely in the room as we speak. But yeah, that car, it frustrates me how misunderstood it was, and how so many people just spec'd it with the worst options you've ever seen, just completely missed the point. And I think that kind of almost destroyed that car's kind of image to a lot of people, because they kind of got this car that they didn't really understand. It wasn't a Carrera S. It wasn't kind of a normal Carrera. It was just, and then once you spec it with like dad seats and a sunroof and kind of privacy glass and no rear wheel steer and none of the GT options or anything like that, it is going to be a car that then just does baffle people.
Yeah. I think we touched on it before, but even our local OPC demo Carrera T, had 18-way electric seats in it.
Awful.
It had PDK. It had sunroof. It was the most terrible spec, and it was like grey. It was a terrible colour, and that was the demo car for the Carrera T. And that's how do people get it so wrong? But yeah, I mean, a good spec Carrera T is cracking, I think.
Yeah, I went for it on my one. I went for the kind of more retro-y type wheels. I went PCCBs. I went rear wheel steer. I went for whatever the suspension drop thing is. Sport chrono. No sunroof. Nothing like that. Lightweight glass. Fixed buckets. I even got OEM houndstooth fabric. I mean, I don't know how I found that, but that's in there as well. Obviously manual. Aluminium pedals. The whole lot. I just threw the book at it, but I didn't want any of the kind of sort of like comfort features that I could have just spec'd in a normal Carrera, because it just defeated the point of the car. I wanted all the unique options. Like the point of that car was the kind of options you could spec together, and no one really got that. I haven't seen anyone else that actually did that. So my mate's actually still got the car. He was kind of thinking of selling it, but I don't know now.
Is it still gold?
It is still gold. It's got topaz skin on it. I think it's actually being stripped off tomorrow. We're going to Topaz to collect my Carrera GT in the Carrera T, and then we're going to dump it there, and they're going to strip it and put it back to racing yellow. So it'll be cool to see that back in its original spec.
They look good in yellow. I think it's a good,
definitely.
good shout.
Yeah.
They've done quite a bit of work to your Carrera GT, haven't they?
Yeah, they've spent a good couple of weeks on it. Kind of, I think they're quite busy, so I don't think that was fully billable hours, I hope.
Yeah.
But they were taking the PPF off it because it had been done before, but it's just been done not to their standards or my standards, so that was coming off.
Yeah.
And whoever had done it before had done some like cut marks on the bumper, not the body, on the bumper. So that is obviously needing to be kind of like machined out. Not very deep ones, but that's been machined out. I was getting the bolt holes removed from the front bumper because I can't stand front number plates. I'd rather a fine. And what else were they doing? I think they were machine polishing the whole car and going around, and they were going to do a full report on paint depths, everything, just kind of trying to decipher, more about the history of the car. But they've been amazed with it. They just said, it's honest. It's a clean car. There's no hidden nasties. And I think they were doing some lacquer work on the carbon at the back, because I don't know if you know, but on the Carrera GT, on the rear diffuser there, it's all this big piece of carbon, and it's 2006 carbon, not 2020 carbon. So it does get a little bit tired lacquer wise. So they've completely restored that kind of sympathetically without kind of going overboard on it. So I'm really pleased with how it's come out, and I'm excited to get it back. Yeah,
I bet you're really looking forward to seeing it tomorrow. That's going to pop.
So with fresh PPF, would you ever track it? Would you have a go?
In a Carrera GT, have you seen my driving? Absolutely not. They'll be wearing like a Tirewall wrap within 5 minutes.
We saw one last year, didn't we, Joe? At I think it was Porsche Cup Track Day, which was
a brilliant day, because we were in the pits. We're like, just normal cars, and this fella like rocks up in this Carrera GT right outside our pit, and he sort of comes out and he had a little bit of a hobble on, and he was quite a short sort of Asian chap, and he looked. I mean, he was in the. I can explain it. He looked like he was doing his decorating at home. He had like old jeans on, scraggly old t-shirt, and he came out with his backpack. And he just went, "Oh, is there any chance that you could just look after my backpack and like just leave it in your pit while I go and do a few laps?" And we were like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then he sort of, as he went back over, we said, "Well, how are you going to get on with it?" He said, "Well, it depends. I've got a real bad gammy knee at the moment, but yeah, if that lets up, I should get a few good laps in." And he just screamed this thing round, and he was a really, really like handy driver. It was quite impressive.
Oh my God. Well, he's my hero. Whoever he is, if he's listening, you're my absolute hero, and maybe you can teach me how to drive it at some point. I don't stall it, but other than that, in terms of, I'm getting stressed at the thought of batting around the track with other people on it as well.
Yeah.
And the expectation as well, being in a Carrera GT, everyone expects you to be like a driving hero, not just some prat who makes rubbish videos. I might have to do some like quiet laps on my own somewhere away from people before I demonstrate how bad I am.
Have you got used to the noise that it makes yet?
No, I can't help but grin. It's the best thing ever. I took my girlfriend out. There's actually an utterly nonsensical video on my channel at the moment of myself, my girlfriend, and my dog going to the pet shop in the Carrera GT. A little bit of beans every now and again. She absolutely hates it, but I love it. Dog's indifferent as well. He doesn't care. He's used to noisy cars, so he's not bothered. But no, it's amazing. It's by far and away the kind of the most visceral thing I've ever driven.
Yeah.
And there's just something so rewarding about it. And I haven't experienced anything like that in a modern car. So other than maybe my SV, which was the closest I've been to a car like the Carrera GT in terms of it's kind of just feels very raw and kind of not to be messed with. But yeah, no, it's great. Love it.
The noise, yeah. I remember seeing one in Southampton when they first came out. So what's late 90s, isn't it? I can't think what year they came out. But yeah, I was just driving around. And was it 2003?
Something like that. I can't remember. 05?
Yeah, first ones were 03.
Oh, yeah. And there was this Carrera GT in front of me. I was like, oh, that's kind of, what is it? And then he gave it some beans, and the noise was just like, I actually sort of shat myself because it was like, what the fuck is that noise? Yeah, just epic.
They're unbelievable. And mine's got this exhaust system on it as well. So, yeah, it's hell.
Good work. Nice.
With Tom, we've got one question to finish, really, and I want to know where you see yourself in 5 years. And that sounds like a really wishy-washy question. It's not, because you're clearly a clever bloke, and also we get the impression that you, from this chat, that you get quite bored easily. So, like, you know, where do you think all of this is going?
That's a good question. Do you know what? I want to kind of build up a few more businesses, sell them off, and then really decide what content to put out, when, and just do less with my days. I'm not moaning at all. I'm so lucky, but I've bitten off more than I can chew in a load of different senses. So I hope in 5 years' time I'm slightly less kind of busy and there's less of a traffic jam in my head, and I don't have to put out 4 videos a week just to get the sponsors in to pay for the cars to then go again, you know? The current churn. So I want to kind of concentrate on my businesses now, concentrate a bit more on me, buy a place in the country and chill a bit. So that really wasn't even an answer. That was just some words. But anyway.
Sounds like it's time to settle down, Tom.
Yeah, I don't know. She's not going to be listening, so it's fine. I don't know about that.
No, fair play to you, Tom. We hope it goes well. We like you on this podcast because you're doing your bit to change the perception of Porsche owners, and that it's not all beige trousers and golf clubs. So keep fighting on behalf of all of us youngsters trying to get involved with it, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice. I've seen a lot of young faces now wanting 996s. I think they think they're cool. Again. And I'm hoping I've had my bit in that. I think they're cool. And I think my history will kind of look back on them as kind of quite quirky and a cool thing to be in. So, yeah, I'm doing my bit. Same with the 912 as well. I think I've spiked demand a tiny bit on those, which can only be a good thing for people that, you know, are a huge fan of the brand and those cars. So, no, I love it. And
yeah, keep pushing the 912 for us. That all helps.
Yeah, no, I will do. You know what? I have people that say, thank you very much, you know, pushing 912s, 996s. You know, I have one or the other one of them. Thanks so much. You know, values have gone up. Great. And then I also have a crowd of people saying, I was looking to get into one of those next month, but you've pushed the prices up. And I get abused. Depending on which other you're on, sorry, or no problem.
That's a serious influence. If you can affect the car market in that way, that's awesome.
It's only a few cars, though. There aren't that many kind of low miles Carrera 4S's, and again, there aren't that many 912s about. So it only needs a couple to go, and then perceptions change slightly. Someone whacks one up for $5,000 more. Hey, presto, the market's moved. It's not that much of a dramatic influence to be able to do that.
Yeah, very true.
Right then, let's get on Auto Trader, shall we? And all put premium on our cars. So, yeah, Tom, TGE, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks very much, guys. Nice one.
Cheers, Tom. Thank you.
Good interview, wasn't it, that?
Yeah, enjoyed it. It was there was a fast-packed sort of high energetic one for a change, wasn't it? In a good way.
Yeah, he can talk quick.
He's clearly a clever bloke, and as we said, I think clearly doing wonders and kind of putting the Porsche brand out there to a younger audience. We've spoke elsewhere about other people doing that. Say the last 10 years, Magnus Walker's probably been the number one bloke in introducing a new audience to Porsche. But people like Tom at TG is kind of definitely doing that, you know, like millennials and whatever comes before that, like, you know.
Yeah. Interesting to see that he's bringing the older stuff back as well. the 912 and the 996.
Yeah, it's representative though, isn't it, of like the trend generally. I think like people are looking at the older cars more now, and kind of there's a lot of love for them. It's like new isn't always best when it comes to cars.
Yeah, I think the last few years it has been, isn't it? But now I think the tide's turning.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was quite interesting that only a Carrera GT doesn't get you a ride in the new turbo press car.
Yeah, definitely, isn't it? But again, like I kind of, it's different. I think with kind of people like Tom, because he can go out and buy the cars like anyway. That's kind of what he does. It's kind of he's documenting his lifestyle. Whereas like journalists aren't documenting their lifestyle, they are critically reviewing a car. And I do think there is a key difference, and that's what we said when Rob Durrant was on the Porsche PR guy. It's a difficult line for the PR guys to tread, because they have kind of got to work out the right way to go. I mean, if you kind of go to influencers, as other brands do, as other brands outside of Porsche, the influencers are all over the cars and they get big hits. But I think a balance is key. There's certainly room for both approaches, but you do need a balance between journalism and documentation of lifestyle and taking people on your personal journey.
Yeah. I thought they might take the approach, though. Obviously, if you can put it in front of a few 100,000 people, that an early video from him on that might well sort of get some good exposure, which I thought they might have jumped at. But interesting, it didn't go that way.
Yeah, I think where Porsche is different to other brands is like Porsche doesn't need to advertise. I mean, have you ever seen a Porsche advert on the television, for example? They do them in the States quite famously for halftime for the Super Bowl. But I mean, I've never seen a Porsche advert in the UK for a 911 or anything. Have you?
No, I can't think of one.
Yeah, no,
never thought of that before. But yeah, you're right.
Whereas if you're something else, it's slightly different, I suppose.
We just passed 7,000 downloads today.
We did. I saw that. That's excellent, isn't it? We can be very, very proud of that.
Absolutely. And it seems to be gaining quicker and quicker, doesn't it? It's snowballing.
Yeah, definitely get some momentum now. I think we need to start unashamedly just asking people to hit that subscribe button on the podcast. And if they're kind enough to leave us a review/rating, then that obviously helps the world go round, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. It'd be great to get a rating and a review. Also, just general feedback's good, isn't it? Like, how can we improve this podcast for you people listening at home? It'd be great to know. I tell you what would be good as well, because again, we're quite chilled on this podcast and we're quite anecdotal as well. If you've got any stories that you kind of want to share with us and to other people listening at home, definitely drop us a line, maybe via Instagram. It could be we've discussed insurance stuff or kind of clangers in regards to like bumps and scrapes and stuff. Anything that you think might be of good value, we're happy to kind of maintain anonymity if that's what you'd like. But as we say time and time again on this podcast, it's a platform for everybody and to share stories. So don't be shy and definitely get in touch. Yeah,
we'd like to hear some stories of that we can laugh at.
I think so. Yeah, like whenever you go to a Cars and Coffee, there's always some cracking stories, isn't there, going around, or when you chat to people down the pub, that sort of thing. So it would be our pleasure to share some of those finer anecdotes on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Look forward to that.
Ideal. Well, look, another awesome episode. A pleasure to hear you guys as always, and we'll speak to you soon, no doubt.
Cool. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.